Hello, everyone. My name's Peter Langsfeld. I'm a wealth manager here at ANI. Just wanted to welcome you. Thank you for coming. We've got what I believe is a pretty important topic, which is not necessarily financially related, but definitely has bearing on your finances and bearing on just how you conduct yourself with the information that you have. I do want to go ahead and make a note, especially for those that are online. We are recording this, and I apologize. I'm going to read this to make sure I don't miss anything. We are recording this, and to keep everybody's privacy, we've made you invisible and muted you. You may still ask questions about the presentation, and we encourage you to do so. I've talked with our presenter. We try to make this interactive today, so as you have questions, please feel free to ask. For those that are online, please use the chat function to go ahead and present that question. We'll relay that forward to our presenter. And with that, I would like to introduce Chad Swats. I've known Chad probably 20 plus years now. He's always been a valuable provider of information and products that we use for our clients to go ahead and provide solutions to some of the financial issues they have. Chad, you're an external wholesaler with Eagle Life in 2021.
Yeah.
Since you've been with them, but like I say, I've known Chad for 20 plus years. I'd like to say we are not old in the business, we're just well seasoned.
That's right.
And with that, I'd like to bring Chad in and have him start the presentation.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Peter. I appreciate that. It's great to be here. I want to thank ANI Financial for having me in today, and want to thank all of you for joining us here today and taking time out of your busy schedule. So, this is a very timely and interesting topic. We all see the headlines out there of, the frequency of seeing those headlines of data breaches or, scams to get personal information, only continues to grow. So if we can help deter that and protect our personal information, we'll all be better off. This is, as Peter said, we want to keep this interactive and fun. In fact, I think, a lot of times when you go to a presentation or an event, what's the first thing that they say? They say, put your cell phone away, silence your cell phone. Well, that's going to be the opposite today. So we're actually going to take our cell phones out, and we'll look at some actionable steps that we can use here today to help secure your personal information and help prevent from becoming a victim of fraud. So as we get into the presentation, it's all about staying one step ahead of the cyber criminals and the thieves, and help protect and secure your personal information and try and avoid becoming a victim of fraud. So, we'll look at the agenda. Here we're going to do a brief overview of the internet and fraud that comes along with the internet. But we're going to spend a lot of time on what we call DIP, which is deter, identify, and protect. Okay. If we can prevent the problem from happening, that's obviously the best solution. But then we're going to look at how can we identify potential vulnerabilities that might be out there. And then ultimately, if we do become a victim of fraud, how can we limit that impact on you, both financially and time? So that's what we're going to spend a lot of time on, is deter, identify, and protect. So if we look at the internet, pretty much everybody, it involves, everybody in our lives, regardless of your age or your location. In fact, the largest growing segment of age of using the internet is what they call the silver surfers. So the 65-year plus. But you can see 4.9 billion people worldwide use the internet. 43.5% of consumers in the United States use mobile banking as their primary bank account. And whenever you have money in motion, there's a chance of vulnerability and chance to be compromised. And if you look at the wheel, I'm sure you recognize some logos there. Looking every 60 seconds last year, the Google searches, just, it amazes me, 2.4 million Google searches every minute last year. 2.4 million searches a minute there. So it's widely used, and it impacts all of us and consumer habits there. So we talked about data breaches. Okay, we see those in the news. What is that? What happens? Whether it's a bank, a loan, social media, a hotel. You maybe don't have to have an account at Equifax, but if you've applied for a loan or opened a bank account, Equifax has your information. And so cyber thieves, going in and trying to hack a company and breach their data, there's a chance that your data is out there on the dark web there. So as we look at that and we think about, okay, well, these breaches, not only on the top, looking at some of the larger data breaches, but the other thing is really looking at how the system works. There's a monetary value for this information. And you can see a Social Security number, $4 for a Social Security number. An online banking account number, $40. Credit card details anywhere from $14 to $30. And if you can get a full range of documents and account details, can be upwards of $1,000. Hacked Facebook account, $35. Okay, so the criminals are investing in this data. Okay, you've got the cyber thieves breach an account, and now the criminals come in and invest money and buy that data. So that's why they're so relentless, okay, with the texts and the calls. And so, we can expect that to continue. So if we can expect it to continue, we can try and prepare for it. So this kind of a continuation of the monetary, kind of how the system works, but you can see how the complaints, this is a level of complaints year by year of internet and identity theft complaints. You can actually see from 21 to 22, the complaints actually went down, but the total loss increased from 21 to 22. From 6.9 billion to 10.2 billion. The other thing, the first bullet point there, in the U.S., there was 422 million compromises, consumer compromises in 22. Now, if you think about it, there's only 330 people in the United States. So that means there's about 1.25 compromises per person in the United States in 2022. Now, when you think of identity theft, this runs through some of the details on that, the impact. Nearly 15 million Americans were affected by identity theft in 2021. Every 14 seconds, someone's identity is stolen, and about $24 billion was impacted of loss in 2021. But I think the real important number here is the bottom bullet point, where it's not just the time, or it's not just the money and the impact, but it's the time also that it takes to clear your name. On average, 330 hours attempting to clear their name of identity theft. Okay, so thinking about 2 weeks of time of trying to clear your name, and that might not all be upfront initially. You might also get impacted, 5 years, 10 years down the road when you're applying for a loan or filing your taxes. That could come back, and you still might deal with it, years down the road. So what can you do? So as we said, we're going to focus on dip, deter, identify, and protect. If you can make it hard for the criminal, they're going to move on to somebody else. So that's why deterring, we're going to spend the most time on deter, because again, you just make it difficult for them, they're going to move on to somebody else. But then we'll look at, how can we identify certain vulnerabilities, and then what can we do if we are a victim? How can we protect and limit the impact of that loss? So strategies to deter cyber thieves. So let's get into it here. When we think about the vulnerabilities, we've broken it down into no tech, low tech, and high tech. So a lot of times we think about the smartphone or the internet, but it also might be what you're throwing away in the trash, or carrying around in your wallet or your purse, and statements and the mail. So we're going to look at the mail, we're going to look at credit cards, social media, and we'll also look at the smartphone and the internet, and take a look at a lot of different ways to help protect and deter. So starting out with no tech, okay, reducing the paper trail, not only reducing what is in the mail, reducing what's in the house, and reducing what's coming into the house or what you're receiving to begin with. The average American receives 41 pounds of junk mail each year. So I don't know about you, but I think it's probably pretty similar. You get the mail each day, and there's pre-approved credit card offers, the catalogs. So it's kind of just, recycle, and then maybe there's one or two, important kind of documents that you kind of keep there. So there's some things that you can do when you think about those credit card statements. And I kind of go back and forth whether I just recycle them or not. But now, I think more about, even shredding those, because somebody could get those and apply using a P.O. box or maybe an abandoned address, and set up an account and a credit card account in your name. So those are some vulnerabilities there. So what you can do is there's a website called Outsource Prescreen. And so that can limit, and there's also a phone number there, 1-888-5-OPT-OUT. So that can then limit receiving those pre-approved, those credit card offers. Another thing to limit catalogs, you can go on to catalogchoice.org. And I do see people writing, and I'm glad, there's that one page, if it's not separate, but in the booklet, where you can kind of take some notes there. So I'm glad to see people taking notes on that. But those are a couple of steps that you can take. Thinking about your documents, shredding documents. There's what's called now a micro shredder. Okay, so you want to have a cross-cutting shredder. Initially, it was just vertical. I guess if they really had to, they can kind of line them up and line up those vertical lines. So now you want to have a micro shredder that has a cross-cutting. So if you've bought a shredder within the last 5 years, you're probably okay. If you haven't bought one for 20 plus years, you might want to think about upgrading and getting a new shredder. The other vulnerability is on this slide is what's in the picture, and it's actually a red flag. right? So the red flag, what is that doing? That's kind of notifying a criminal that there's maybe something important in the mailbox going out, typically maybe a check or a statement or some correspondence with a company. So, be careful with that. Go paperless, as much as you can. But, if a criminal is casing a neighborhood and they see, a mailbox with a red flag on it, they might be apt to go and check out what's in that mailbox there. So now we're going to get into credit card fraud. 150 million Americans will be victims of credit card fraud, or were in 2023. And when you look at the box here, 65% of that fraud involved card not present. Okay, CNP, card not present, meaning they're getting the data and the information on the card, and they're going to the merchant or the bank and doing it on an online format. And what we're seeing also oftentimes is they're not large purchases. They're smaller purchases, $100 or less, not to get kind of tracked on that. So when we look at using credit cards, there's kind of different levels of risk. Technology has really gotten better using credit card technology and trying to limit the risk of fraud with credit cards. But when you think of the highest risk on the left, it's using the magnetic strip. Okay, running the strip. Maybe at a restaurant, the wait staff takes your card, goes in the back. Hopefully they're not doing something with it. But when you think about the strip, what that does is that information stays on the strip. So there's a device called a skimming device where they can actually, a criminal can go up and scan or skim the information that's on that strip. Okay. So then they introduced the chip or the tap. So the low risk is the NFC chip, where when you do a tap, there's a specific transaction number to that transaction. So it actually gets a transaction number is created with that transaction. So it's not held in any format that they can get access to. Now, the technology also, you need to be now closer to the device, right? So they're used to, when they first got introduced, you could actually scan. They were scanning, like 15, 20 feet away. Somebody could be here like scanning all the chips, like in the room here. But now you actually do need to be close to the device for it to pick that up. The risk is losing the card. Obviously, they can go and then, tap and use that card at any location. And then the least amount of risk is a chip with a pin. So not only are you doing a tap with the EMV chip, but then also maybe required to also supply a PIN number on that as well. Yeah.
That's something that we can choose to implement on the credit cards we currently have. I've never had a tap with a PIN.
Yeah.
Call my company and ask them that.
I think so. And that's a good question. I was thinking the same thing. I don't have that either. So I don't know if that means, we have an NFC chip or if it is an EMV chip, but just not requesting or, having that additional layer of protection of requiring a PIN on that. Yeah. Good question, Chad. So here are some tips there as well. Do not sign the card. Write, ask for ID on the back of the card. Now, if you think about it, I don't know. I don't get asked, sometimes maybe a merchant and maybe it's the size of a purchase, but I don't get a lot of times, the merchant or, looking at the back of the card for the signature, but just write, ask for ID on that. The other thing that helps is designate one card for online purchases. So if you have multiple cards and you're using multiple cards online, that just means there's multiple opportunities for compromise. So if you limit it to one card, you can kind of keep track of for online purchases. The other thing is use a credit card over an ATM. Would think that would be would be relevant or easy to think about, but I've heard people using the ATM cards. But if you think about it, if there is a compromise, rather have it be the bank's money than your own money in your bank account there. Smartphone apps. You can look at, there's different things. If you have an app on there that you can do, you can view transactions in real time. If you see something suspicious or a charge you're not familiar with, you can freeze the card, right there on the app. So kind of, get familiar with that. You can lock it or freeze it on the app. And then, you can set alerts. You can set custom alerts. Now, this might, I think, bring interesting conversation around the house there and the relationships. But you can actually get real time, alerts of transactions. So maybe you set a threshold. You can also put a custom alert. Maybe you say, well, anything over $50 or something, I want to get notified of that transaction. Yeah.
International,
I'm sorry.
international use of cards.
Boy, good question. I think I would say similar. I think on that. Yeah.
Chime in.
Yeah.
So some cards still recommend that you give them a call and let them know that you're going overseas. Other cards now have come to the point where you log in or it's automated if you call in and they're like, yep, thanks for calling, letting us know. See you, have a great trip. Others are also not requiring that you call at all. So understand what your card requires. Just give them a call and ask.
That's a good point. Yep.
Concerning that enough, thing like if you are keeping your credit card, those what is that protection called that so that if somebody gets close to you, they can get your information or something, or
Or to scan, yeah, that might be.
they can
Mhm.
do something to you and get if you don't have the cards protected.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And I think because the technology has gotten better on those, that you really have to almost come in contact with it. And you're right. There used to be, even like you could get a little wallet thing, that protected from those scans. But I think because of the technology and having to be so close to it, those have kind of become a little obsolete on that.
We did have a question from online. Is there any difference if you were to choose to pay via PayPal or a service like that?
Yeah, so we do get into PayPal. I think one key level of security is to have a PIN number. We'll actually look at, how you can, and I guess that would be more if somebody hacked into your PayPal, but having a second layer of authentication, and we'll look at how you can put a PIN on your PayPal account on that. Okay, passwords. This is your first line of defense. This is a fun slide here. If you think about passwords, when the internet first came out, you had 8 characters, maybe use the word hot dog. But then they started to introduce, well, you need to put a number on there, or now you need an uppercase and a lowercase, and now you need a special character. But if you look at some best practices for passwords, one is use multiple passwords. Okay. I'm kind of a victim. I don't really do that. I try and, right, for simplicity, try and keep the same password for a long time. Sometimes it forces you, you have to change passwords and things. Now I've got more passwords, but not only use multiple passwords, use a separate password for your email. Okay, a separate password for your email, because if you think about it, let's say Marriott had a data breach, okay, and you're a Marriott customer and your information is on there. And so they've got the information, maybe they have your password at your Marriott account. Well, if that's the same password as your email, then they can go to your email and then get access to everything. So separate password for email, 12 characters now is the minimum, and you want to use all the multi characters. If you look at this, and it might be kind of hard to read from the back, but this is the time it takes to hack a particular account. This is numbers only, lowercase, upper and lowercase, numbers, upper lowercase letters, and then everything, a symbol, numbers, upper and lowercase letters. And then this is the number of characters. If you have 8 characters and you have all of the, upper, lower, number, special characters, that's 5 minutes. They can hack that with an 8-character password. But if you go to 12 characters and you go out to everything, that's 226 years to hack into that. So just from going to 8 to 12. Another thing is maybe use a phrase. You can see ice cream for dinner. So you can see how they put the number 4 in there for the word for, put the exclamation point. You've got capital letters, lowercase letters. So I think if you're doing 12 characters, phrase, uppercase, lowercase, special characters, have multiple passwords, and have a separate password for your email. Mm-hmm.
Some passwords are also, you can add spaces if you want, but some don't let you. Some.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Not sure the difference. I haven't really seen, spaces, but yeah. But that's a good tip there. Yeah. Any questions on passwords? Yeah.
Right. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Here?
Yeah.
The
time in the lower right.
Oh, the time. Yeah. Well, let's see. This is 308 billion years, I think. And this is maybe 26 trillion years. Yeah. Yeah.
Not sign your credit cards.
Right.
By using one of those in a post office.
Okay.
They will, Parker Post Office will not accept an unsigned credit card.
Is that right?
You have to show your ID.
Well,
your ID.
Yeah.
And then sign it. And now are you happy?
Okay. Interesting that the post office, and maybe, showing the ID or maybe explaining that, due to security or personal information, but yeah, maybe they won't budge on that. That's interesting. That's information. Thank you.
And I'll say, see photo ID.
Yeah. And that's kind of, the ask for ID.
Usually at the post office because of
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Well, thank you for sharing that. Here's the multi-factor authentication. I think, when you can, have that separate, whether it's a fingerprint or a facial ID, and some accounts you can ask to add a, multi-factor, a second form of protection. And you can see that Microsoft says having a multi-factor authentication blocks 99.9% of automated attacks, just having that second layer of authentication on that. Social media. This is an interesting. Now, I'm not an expert on social media because the reason I know that is I'm not on social media, outside of the exception of LinkedIn. But when you think about social media, I think the big thing is think before you post. There's some information that you don't want out there or be posting, like your date of birth, your home address, some personal information. The other thing I think about sharing vacation photos, I would say actual real time, right? You see, if I live in Colorado and I'm posting pictures from Italy, right? What's that telling a thief that you're not at home, right? If that's real time. Some other, spotting some other scams. If you've got an old friend, reaching out and they're asking a lot of questions, or asking a lot of personal questions or trying to get information. Obviously, requests from a stranger also be aware of. And then some of these product quizzes, posts and quizzes, some of those things are all just about trying to get information from you. Now, being a social media user does increase your likelihood of being affected by identity fraud 30% higher using social media, and specifically Snapchat, Facebook, and Instagram at a 46% higher risk of identity fraud. So just be careful what you're doing on there. Looking at your mobile device, how can you secure that, password? Again, maybe a second layer of authentication. You can disable location history and significant locations, especially if if the password, if they've had multiple denials of trying to access, have it set up where it'll remove certain information. And then you can have, find your iPhone on there as well. With your phone number, a criminal can try and steal your phone number and port it to another carrier. And they could, commit crimes on your phone number. They could set up new, credit lines and things like that. So the big thing is you can contact your carrier, whether it's Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, any of the, the carriers, and set up a PIN for your account. So again, that second layer of authentication there. So if someone's trying to port your number to another carrier, you would have that PIN number there to protect that. Okay, now we are going to get into some of the interactive part. And if you have your cell phone, we can actually take it out and run through a couple of steps here. Did you know that some of the apps on your phone actually have tracking devices, and they're collecting data about you, such as your age, your gender, political leanings, GPS data, and browsing habits? Okay, so what you can do to limit that, or for an app, is we'll go to settings, okay, and we're going to go down, scroll down to privacy. Mine says privacy and security. So it's just that kind of down in that, from general down at the bottom of that group, privacy and security. And if you hit that, the second one is on there is tracking. Okay. Go ahead and hit tracking, and if is it on or off? So it's allow apps to request to track. Okay. If you don't want that, you can turn that off. Okay. I'm a big, whenever they ask to track or do anything, I'm always no, block, Now, thinking about this, there might be a couple things now. One, I have on here Life 360. This is an app that I have with my family, our kids, and my wife and I were on Life 360. Well, they need to track, location, and that's kind of the whole thing. So you can do that. You can still have that. Another thing is Uber, right? I use Uber either for work, or if my wife and I are out for dinner, we might Uber. So, you can allow Uber, needs to track that location to pick you up, but allowing apps request to track, turning that off, then it won't automatically track on that. Okay, everyone find that? How about spam text? Anyone want to try and limit the amount of spam text that you get? So we're going to go and limit unknown senders. So we're going to go back into settings, Now this is a little further down. There's 3 green, and again, I'm looking at an Apple phone here, but you've got phone, messages, and FaceTime in green there. Everybody kind of see that's going down. So hit messages. Okay, so when you're in messages, scroll down to message filtering, unknown and spam. Everybody see that kind of going down, pretty far down to unknown. Okay, so from here we want to, let's see, we're going to go back into messages and then scroll down to known. Let's see, here it is, filter unknown senders, and you turn that on there to filter unknown senders if you want to. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, I will say some of these are personal choice too, you know. This might not be for everybody. Some of this, you know, personal choice. But if you, so I hit, like hers hit that right away, but I hit unknown, filter unknown, and then it had to either turn it off or on. And then if you go into your actual messages, and let's see, if you go into filter here, you can actually see all messages, known senders, unknown senders there in your messages. Everyone good with that? These steps are also in the book, in the booklet.
Hey, Chad, I have a question.
Yeah.
If you do that and some parent on my kid's soccer team needs to text me and they're not on my phone, am I not going to get the message, or is it?
You will get the message, and I guess they would go into unknown senders. I think they would go into unknown senders. Yeah. Good question. And you know, I think getting into, there's even silence unknown callers as well. And you're right. You may not, you know, want to have, or everybody may not want to have this on or have it on 24/7. But yes, for the messages, you can go and hit unknown senders. And actually, yeah, I can go and kind of see all of those that I didn't get. Silence unknown callers, you go into back into settings, and kind of where messages were, that green, you go ahead and hit phone, and then scrolling down, there's silence unknown callers. Okay. Now I actually have that turned off, and here, you know, a couple reasons why. Now, you'll still get the call though, Chad, to your point. The call will still come in even if you silence it, and they can still leave a message. Okay. But if you think about it, maybe you're getting expecting a delivery at the house, and you know the delivery person might be calling, and you might miss it if it's silent. Or if you're traveling, the airline, you know, might try and get you. So you know, for me, even, you know, being in sales, I might get a call from somebody that I'm not familiar with, know the number, but I want to be able to take that call. I do, you know, now I also, you know, and, you know, some of the numbers say potential scam, or yeah, on scam, spam on that. So
Want to have it, turn it on if you want to silence the other.
yes. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, we can go ahead and, yeah, I'll go ahead and check that. Yeah, in a sec. Let's do that. Yeah.
Just a curiosity, how many iPhones and how many Androids are here? Everybody on iPhones? How many Androids?
Don't have one. Don't have.
So there's a couple.
Okay.
That's my, I got.
You've got a couple here.
Apple. I'm not Apple.
So here's the peer-to-peer payment, you know, the Venmo, the PayPal, you know, those are becoming more popular way of you know, exchanging money, moving money around. So on the setup, you can go in and put a PIN on there. So, avoid, especially if your phone's stolen, somebody, being able to hack, a Venmo account on that. Wi-Fi network, this kind of looks at whether you're at a secure network at your house or if you're out at a hotel or at Starbucks, or on a plane. Just kind of be careful what you're looking at. You might not want to be, looking at your bank, account when you're at Starbucks, that people have. You could maybe, be looking at your account there. So just be careful if you're on public Wi-Fi or your home private Wi-Fi. Data backup, back up your information. And then if you're going to get rid of a device, make sure you physically destroy the device, whether it's a hard drive or your phone. So you want to make sure that you're completely wiping that phone out when you're getting rid of that.
Record grill is good.
Yeah, there you go. So that was the deter. Hopefully, some steps that can help. Again, it's about making it tougher to get information and let them move on to somebody else. The more you know, the safer you'll be. So let's look at identifying it. It's really about being aware and being aware of suspicious activity and being alert. So, if you're getting, some things to be alert from, if you're getting a bill in the mail, or a statement every month, and then all of a sudden it's not arriving anymore, that might be maybe somebody changed that account. So that's a suspicious activity. If you have good credit and you go to apply for a loan and you get denied, that might be another suspicious activity. So some things you can do: you can Google yourself. You can, review your financial statements to try and, make sure you don't see anything suspicious. You can get a credit report. You're entitled to one free credit report annually. And then here are a couple of good websites. This top one from the United States Postal Service. Anyone heard of Informed Delivery? You can actually sign up for Informed Delivery, and what they will do, the post office will take a picture of the mail that is to be delivered to you for that particular day. So you can do that at USPS.com. The second one, Have I Been Pawned? It's PWNED, but you can actually go there, put your phone number and your email address, and it'll tell you if either one has been involved in a data breach, or if that number or that email has been compromised. And then obviously, getting your credit report online, at annualcreditreport.com, or the phone number on the slide there. Okay, email, text, calls. We've kind of, gone through some of those, but I think the big thing here, are a couple of things to take away here. One, don't click the link. If you think it's kind of suspicious or you're not sure about the origin or the sender, don't click the link. Check the email address, because even though it might look or say a company, if you look at the email address, that might have something totally different on the email address. So that's one red flag there. Don't click the link. And then also, if there's immediate action needed, that's also a red flag on that. If somebody's saying urgency to do something, it's kind of a red flag. And then phone calls. I mean, this is getting harder with AI. You're getting voice recognition. They're able to maybe record your voice. So you might get a call, with maybe your child's voice. So if it sounds suspicious, ask a personal question. Okay. This says, have a safe word, but I think ask a personal question if you're not sure. If they're saying that they're your son and they're in jail, your daughter, ask them a personal question about their, 10th birthday or something like that. Only they would know on that to really get an idea, and then, boom, hang up. I was thinking, you get some of these calls and I answer, a lot of them are 720 numbers, and they're just silent. And what I'm thinking here with these AI, they're recording. Like if I answer and say, hi, this is Chad, they might be recording that just to get that for voice recognition. Yeah.
Who's calling?
Yeah.
The phone.
Yeah. Sometimes there's a delay and then somebody comes on. But sometimes it's just silent. Right. And I start to think, all right, what are they doing? They're just recording my voice. I'm like, all right. So some steps to take with this, you can report to your email provider, change your password with your email, contact the company that is being impersonated. On a text, you can forward the text to 7726, a scam text. You can send it to that number, 7726. Calls, you can block the number, report it to the carrier on that. Some common scams on Identify. We're familiar with the QR codes now. Those are becoming more and more popular as far as paying, maybe at a parking garage. I mean, restaurants, you have it for a menu, maybe to pull up. But if you think about what a QR code is, it's a link. Okay, you're clicking on a link. And so what criminals are doing is taking a fake QR code, putting it over the real one, and you go there thinking you're paying, for parking, and you're clicking it, and it's a link to a criminal site on that. So be careful with that. Maybe make sure there's no, sticker over a QR code. Glue and tap at an ATM. They're gluing the card reader, maybe forcing to tap, and just think about making sure you're logged out when you leave an ATM, because somebody behind you could come in if you're not actually logged out of that ATM. Social Security fraud. This is a growing area of fraud that people are going and filing for Social Security, with your information. Okay, so you might be working with A&I Financial and your retirement plan, and they say, all right, you're gonna, we think file for Social Security at 67. Okay, well, you go to file at 67, and Social Security says, what? You've been getting checks since 62. You're like, what? So the best practice there is when you turn 62 and beyond, set up your account at Social Security and monitor, check it, whether monthly, quarterly, maybe just checking to make sure that there's no fraud activity on your number. Nobody's trying to file under your Social Security number.
We do have a question regarding Social Security, so read it because it's kind of a little complicated. In light of the recent public data Social Security break, SSA.gov/fraud talks about blocks on Social Security accounts, both for e-transactions and direct deposit fraud. Can't be done online, and SS Help Desk is unaware of these blocks. Do you know about them and how to accomplish them?
Okay. Yeah, I think the big thing there is you can lock your Social Security number. I guess maybe calling the 800 number. So there's a couple of things. One, there's the 800 number. It's 800-772-1213. Lock your Social Security number. But I think the other thing that you would want to do is freeze your credit on that as well. So that's the more important kind of, freezing your overall credit on that if that happens on that.
Repeat that number.
Yeah, 800-772-1213.
Talking
Social Security.
about freezing your credit, what's the risk to us when we freeze our credit?
Yeah, there really is no, unless you go to apply for a loan or something. So you would want to unfreeze it if you're going to get a loan or a bank account. So you can freeze it, unfreeze it at different times, at various times. So I guess unless you want to use the credit for filing or, applying for an account, then you could keep it frozen and then unfreeze it on that. Let's see. The other thing is tax returns. Okay, people are trying to generate a fake tax return, try and generate a refund. So kind of the important thing there, I guess, file your returns earlier, because you can see that this tends to happen earlier. So the IRS identified 1.1 million fraudulent tax returns through March 2nd. Okay, so it'll tend to be earlier is when they're going to try and file a fraudulent return. Also know the IRS will not call you. Okay, I get multiple voicemail. They call those spam texts. A lot of them are, you owe back taxes. So the IRS will never call you on that. They will do it by mail. But you can also just, notify the IRS and check on that. Don't provide any information from somebody calling you. So how to protect? We get into freezing the credit. Getting an annual credit report. I think we talked about, even though, sometimes when these data breaches happen, the company will offer, say, an annual, an annual account of, LifeLock or some, protection, theft protection there. But you can see here on that bullet point, only 2% of the Equifax breach in 2019, only 2% of the people that were offered a free subscription to the ID theft took advantage of that there. So, but yeah, I think, those can be helpful. Again, not endorsing, one or the other, but those are available. Again, you can freeze your credit. Talking about that, what about children? Okay, we're starting to see criminals going after children's accounts, even as, infants, 5-year-olds. So you can go on and freeze the child's credit until they get to 18 or whatever, maybe when they're going to file for a credit card, or when they actually need credit. A 5-year-old is not going to be filing for a credit card or something. So you might want to think about even freezing your child or your grandchild's pass that information along there. What to do if something does happen? Here, place a fraud alert at those credit agencies. So you can see the phone numbers there for Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion there. So you want to place a fraud alert at those credit companies. Close the account that's been effective, as quick as you can. File a police report and contact the Federal Trade Commission. The websites idtheft.gov or ftc.gov/idtheft on that. I just talked to a friend, and I was talking about the presentation, and he said a few years ago he got breached, and somebody set multiple credit card accounts up in his name, and actually spent like $35,000 of credit card charges at like Menards and Best Buy, and he went through all of these, things that he did when that happened. And I asked him, if he knows how he got hacked. And I think they identified it to a law firm. And there was actually a low-level clerk in the law firm that I think was actually selling the data there. But it took him a long time. He was able to get everything clear. on that, but took all these steps. He said, yeah, I placed a fraud alert, closed the account, I filed a police report, I contacted the FTC. So all those steps. And that brings up, not only, maybe a criminal in a company who's doing that, but you hear that a lot of these breaches are an error of an employee, clicking a link or do something. So a lot of these data breaches actually happen because of an error of an employee at the company. It's,
How do you find out what happened or who did it or when?
well, yeah, how do you find out? Well, I guess it's, monitoring the accounts or seeing fraudulent charges, on credit cards and things like that, looking at your credit report, things like that. So having to be diligent and looking out for suspicious activity there. Maybe you start getting a bill in the mail from, Best Buy that you didn't make those purchases, and that's gonna then, signal that.
Existing credit card, often the credit card company will pick that up as well as unusual activity. So I had a situation where I had bought something online. About a week later, I'm filling up gas in the car, and then immediately the credit card got frozen. And I'm trying to pay for the gas. I'm like, take the other one out, pay for the gas, call the credit card company out. Well, it turns out I was trying to buy gas at the same time somebody was trying to buy gas in Illinois. So the credit card company picked it up right away, froze my credit card, and said, great, one of you is wrong. We don't know which one. And so it's up to you to reach out to your credit card company in a situation like that. But often they will pick that up super fast.
Yeah, that's great. And it's nice the credit card companies have, I think, gotten better about recognizing, suspicious activity. So, so to summarize, we looked at deter, identify and protect, try and make it difficult for the criminals, and also then recognizing suspicious activity, being alert, and then ultimately, if you do become a victim of fraud, what are the steps that you can take to minimize and limit the impact to you? So I hope you were at least able to pick up one idea that you can take back to help protect, and secure your identity and protect you from being a victim of identity fraud. So again, thank you all for being here today, and thank you A&I Financial for hosting. Question.
It's becoming more and more difficult for me to keep track of passwords.
Mm-hmm.
Forget if I'm going to use 5, 6, 7 different passwords, it's tough to keep track of this, and it's annoying, frankly, for me.
Mm-hmm.
I read an article that said that they're going to be moving towards biometrics and getting away from passwords.
Okay.
Do you know anything about this? And if so, is this a good move to make or not?
I'm not that familiar with the biometric, but I guess if there's any improved, identification on that, whether it's, and I don't know if that's, a fingerprint or facial recognition, things like that. I do know there are those services or where you can get like an encrypted, application where you can store, passwords on that, and they are pretty well protected, encrypted on that. Chad.
We'll touch on that. One thing we do here at A&I is we all subscribe to a tool. Ours is Keeper, but there are several different ones out there. And it's an aggregator of all your passwords, which my mind felt scary at first. I said, I don't know if I want everything in one spot, but it's got two-factor identification to get in. And then your password's going to be a gazillion letters long. It's going to be the 200 trillion years for them to hack it.
Right.
And I don't have to remember any of it except one login. And so I'm logging in through Keeper to access any website, any loan information, my bank, my Axos investment account, you name it. And it's going to have a unique password that they're creating. And I'm just copying and pasting it in, so I never have to remember a login. And we found that to be extremely safe. I would highly encourage everybody to do that.
Yeah, that makes sense. They were talking about retinal scans where, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. I mean, now,
that would obviate the need for, you know, having to go through, a lot of times I'll be on a website or something and they ask for a password and I don't even go on it.
Yeah.
I just don't do it.
right. Right. I try it. Yeah. Try as many until it says, yeah, that's too many. Now you're locked out. So I need to do a better job at getting a,
We can, maybe we can send that out to anybody here, some 2 or 3 options.
How to do it.
Security.com.
Keepersecurity.com.
Keepers,
Keepersecurity.com.
And there's somebody online is recommending Dashlane as another option.
right? Sure.
So, just in the last few weeks, my computer was frozen and somebody was stealing all my emails. Okay, so then is that identity theft?
Yeah, I think trying to accomplish that. Yeah. So I would think, you know, closing the account, contacting the email provider on that. And then I think you would want to be more, you know, monitoring other accounts and making sure that you're not, you know, I think changing passwords on different things, you know, on different accounts, I think would be a wise, yeah.
So you say, talk to the police. What do I tell the police? That somebody took my email.
Yeah, yeah, I think, yeah, notifying the police, yeah, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, and then I think you mainly want to contact the provider, your email provider on that as well. Yeah, and change your password.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've spent hours.
Oh, wow. That's too bad. Yeah, yeah.
An email that said that they're from the US Postal Service saying that, please give us information so you can pick up this package. I immediately deleted it, but should I tell that to the post office? So,
You could.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I think you could. Yeah. I received those as well. Yeah.
I know I didn't have to
Yeah.
order any package.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. The package is at the facility. You need to call. Yeah. But yeah, I think.
Gonna send it back.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
Immediately respond. Or a lot of times those emails are also, you know, I can't talk to you right now. Please respond via email. Click on this.
Yeah.
Never click on
Don't ever click on it.
Maybe emailing or notifying the email provider again, and maybe the FTC or the police on that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, if you go and type in your name, you can see all the information, all your personal stuff, whether you've entered it anywhere or not. So how do you get rid of that information? Because it's sitting out there for anybody that knows your name.
How, no.
Yeah, I don't know if there is a way to get rid of that. I think it's just being aware of, you know, what you're seeing out there, and again, monitoring, just kind of being aware, you know, of suspicious activity. And yeah, I don't know if you can get rid of it per se.
But
Yeah.
nothing in as far as my address, my children, my education, none of that I put in. And yet it's all sitting there for anybody to look at. All they need is my name. And
I've seen that, yeah. All your relatives and where they live, how old they are, this is ridiculous.
That's ancestry.com.
I didn't do ancestry.
Well, somebody did somewhere and they put your name in probably.
I know all my
If you
relatives.
have like the Norton Security or one of those, what do you call them? You have to protect that, like Norton, Security in your computer, in your laptop, and then it always says, these people have your information or they have sold it, if you can upgrade. Is that a good idea to have, because they're always asking for upgrades, secure you even more. Is that?
Need a VPN.
I don't think, and I didn't really,
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So some of it depends on how worried you are about it. Right. So case in point, so myself, my father passed away, and for the year afterwards, my mother was hounded by calls, emails, texts, because we did something simple. We put the obituary in the newspaper, right? Something simple, something you would think of, absolutely, this is what we're supposed to do, right? For a year, she was hounded. And, again, receiving emails and all that. So in that scenario, yes, we absolutely signed up for everything we could sign up for. Right? Just because there was a lot of stuff that was moving around, right? Both personally and financially, right? That was many years ago. Everything has settled down. Mom doesn't feel necessarily that that's that big of a problem. So, some of those services we've let go. But again, it's how much risk do you feel that you're at, right? So, does anybody here still use checks? Okay. How do you send those?
US mail.
By the mail, right? With your account number on it, with your signature on it, and everything to allow somebody to access your bank account, right? Because it's a check. They're going to pull money out of your bank account. Do you take that check into the post office, or do you use that little blue box that's on the side of the road?
Into the
Inside the post office.
Absolutely inside of the post office. For a while there, I was living in Southern California, and the big crime that was going on was somebody would show up in a truck and a chain, and they would yank that blue post office box off of the foundation and just go with it. Rifle.
They've got the pass keys.
You got the keys.
Yeah. So any of those kind of things, just walk into the post office, right? Well, if they break into the building, that's a different thing. But
Then we're in
still,
trouble.
so, I think, Chad, the point of this is, how do you,
what you're comfortable with, how much,
how do you interact with the information that's going out, right? This is really just to make you more aware, right? We all grew up with, well, of course, this is how we do things. Well, again, in my mother's case, this was a simple thing. It caused a year of heartache. Right. So be careful with that data. It's yours. It's very important. But I think there are many ways to go ahead and take care of it. Open it up to more questions, Chad.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out something that Chad had mentioned multiple times today that we've heard in these similar lunch and learns over the years, and it's the deter component of that.
Yeah.
In my mind, I think 95% of your problems are fixed there. I think of the analogy of my house has a bunch of security cameras and a fancy schmancy alarm system and all sorts of things to try to make my family feel safe. My neighbor printed off we're protected by XYZ company and stuck it to a metal pole in his rocks by his front yard. And that alone will probably deter just as many people as my house.
Right.
And he's been laughing at me for years.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
I think that even
You're right.
small,
Move on.
simple step to make it difficult, those folks are looking for quick, easy cash, and they're going to move on. So that's
right.
the most important thing we talked about today.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Now I have to tell you, about 3 weeks ago, Cassidy called me and told me that there was a chance that I was being hacked. So because she called, it alerted me, and right after that, my computer was frozen for 2 days. But she was the first one that notified me that something was going on, saying that I had sent an email, something about an Amazon account or something if I had. Anyway, but that was the first.
Okay.
Then I noticed, I thought, good for Cassidy.
Yeah. Well, good job. Yeah. That's great. Good job, Cassidy. Yeah.
As far as buying things online and worrying about where your information is going, we have a credit card that we don't use very often, and it is a lower limit, which we ask for. We use that and call it our trash card. So that's what we use for all our online purchases. And that way, if something happens, we can just get rid of the card. And it will affect the rest of our life.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
You mentioned setting alerts on your credit cards, right, per transaction amount.
Yeah, that's zero. That way, because sometimes even the $1, those can be, yeah.
Well, those are often the ones.
Those are often the ones. Actually,
And that,
the same thing happened to Frank. He couldn't get gas, and we were trying to figure out. And they said there was a $1, and he was okay, but we had actually, it was fine. But they said anytime we see these, mark the account. So
and sometimes those are the ones that they're testing the account, you know, to see if it'll go through. They do a small,
but it was from a
yeah. Hmm.
business with, but yeah. So that was good. Like, okay, thanks.
Good. Well, thank you all for sharing. And again, hopefully you got some tips to kind of be aware of and try and deter those thieves and protect yourself from becoming a victim. And if you do, you know, try and reach out and trying to limit the impact on that. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
I would be remiss if I don't announce our next event, which is November 6th. And I got to stand right there, apparently, Jeff. November 6th is the third quarter market update with Carl. And thank you for coming.
Appreciate it.
Very informative.